So in this short video series, we're going to teach you how to spin up Locust, which is this load testing framework in which we can simulate holder agents to issue and verify credentials, whether over mediation or not. So in this first part of this video series, we're going to show you how to spin up a non-clustered environment.
And then after this first portion of spinning up this non-clustered environment, those VMs will give us the framework in which to spin up our clustered environment so we can spin up much more users in a shorter period of time. So awesome, let's get started with this non-clustered environment. So if you'd like to see any of the documentations on why we are choosing Locust in order to spin up this environment, or any of the other motivations on why we're setting the things the way they do, I will refer you to our design document to see all of our motivations there. But this will be just sort of a beginner-friendly how to spin up this environment. So we'll break this up into several parts. That'll be one, how to first SSH into these VMs on the cloud. We will make the assumption that your cloud provider in this choice is AWS. However, all of these instructions are transferable and will be very easily replicable to any other cloud provider. And then after SSHing into these VMs on the cloud, we will add SSH keys to those individual VMs so then we can clone down resources needed for those particular VMs. And then 3, we'll begin instantiating all the particular components that we'll need. These components will include a Postgres database for the Occupy agent configuration, B, the Occupy agent and getting that hooked up to the Postgres database, C, the Locust framework, and D, optional, a mediator if you would like to do so that way, although you don't necessarily need to set it up in this step if you already have a mediation URL set up somewhere else. And then we'll also include within each of these particular sections how to set up firewall rules and more. So awesome. But before we can do any of this, we'll need to have SSH keys on our computer so that we can be able to SSH into these machines. So first off, let's go ahead by instantiating all of the necessary VMs on the cloud. Recall, we will need 4, and we'll walk through 1, and then we'll just need to rinse and repeat these for all of the others. Note that when going through this process, you will need a larger sized machine for the non-clustered environment for Locust, as it takes up a quite hefty amount of disk space. And if you don't have sufficient enough disk space, this will cause issues later on. So first off, head into your designated cloud provider. In order to log in, follow the instructions given by your organization and ensure before proceeding that you have sufficient permissions. A, spin up and down VMs, B, able to modify firewall rules or security groups, and C, be able to instantiate a elastic IPs or static IPs. Additionally, you might also, if you're spinning up a local mediator, need permissions to set DNS names, which that would be in the case of Amazon, Route 53, or if you're within Google, Cloud DNS. So make sure you have those permissions or be able to ask someone for help with getting the things that you need. So after logging into AWS in this instance, you want to press the menu bar drop down on the left-hand side, and you want to head into instances, and from there on the top right side next to your email or username, you want to choose the region you want to work from and spin up your environments in. VMs that are closer to Canada and putting resources in US East 1, although it might save you money, might incur more latency. Do whatever works best for you. You want to make sure while choosing this region, as you're spinning up VMs, make sure to set them in the same zone. It doesn't really make sense to put different components in different places if you're going to be communicating back and forth. That's just unneeded extra latency that you're adding into the system. So let's spin up one of these first VMs, and in this case we're just going to go in the order that we said. First we're going to start off with the Postgres database and just make our way down. So after heading into instances and deciding the zone you want to work in, go ahead and click on the orange Launch Instances button and click Launch Instances. This will send you to a page in order. So under names and tags, go ahead and give this first VM an appropriate name. We will go in order as above and thus give this VM the very creative name of database. Under application and OS images, Amazon Machine Image, navigate to the quick start section and press Ubuntu. That is just the default we will go with here. Under instance type, click on the box below instance type, and it should already be set to t2.micro by default, but for now let's put it in as t3a. Later we'll want to change these machine types according to cost and thread efficiency, but for right now t3a.small is a good default. If you are replicating these instructions and you are spinning up the Locust environment, you'll want to make sure to give it plenty of disk size. Further, if you want to spin up more users, it's recommended to use a bigger VM. So to begin with, maybe choose a t3.large or a t3.extra large. However, definitely head under the configure storage section and change the 8 gigabytes to 32 gigabytes or 64 gigabytes. If you'd like, we can do a separate video about this to make sure that you do have enough disk space. All right, so if this is the first VM you're creating for this work, under key pair, log in, create new key pair. A new sub window should pop up titled create key pair. Create a name for this key pair in the box with the text, enter key pair name. You'll give it the very creative name performance. Choose a key pair type. We went with RSA. Finally, choose a .pem as your private key pair type, and press create key pair. From here, you'll want to save this key pair in a nice, comfortable location, preferably in a folder you will be able to recognize as having SSH key pairs. For example, in these instructions, we'll be saving it under the folder Indicio Perf Services AWS. And press save. And if this is not the first VM you're creating for this work, you can choose a pre-existing .pem file. All right, now let's go under network settings. Once again, if this is the first VM you're creating for this work, under network settings, click the edit box. And then under firewall security groups, click on the create security group box. Under security group name, give the security group a name. Consider, for example, performance security group or performance-test, just something appropriate. And this is sufficient enough to create the security group. However, if this is not the first time you are creating a VM for this work, then you can just go into the firewall security groups and then click on the select existing security group box. Click on the box under common security groups and select the previous security group you created for this project. In our case, performance-test. Awesome. Finally, scroll to the bottom of the page and press the orange launch instance button. So now you want to go ahead and repeat this process while you're here for all the respective instances you'll need for the non-clustered environment.
Other than that, I'll see you in the next video where we begin to set up our individual components, starting with our database.